Welcome to Lost Culture, your one-stop destination for everything pop culture. My name's Aston, and today we're going to do a review and a quick recap for the Get Down episode 4. Alright, in this episode, we don't really see Big A in this episode. We don't see Cadillac that I remember. So, we're just going to stick with, we'll start off with Dizzy. We see Dizzy. We see he's out spray painting again. Everybody else is getting in trouble. We see Dizzy's out getting spray painting again. We see he's actually getting chased by the police, and while getting chased by the police, he stops and grabs his bong again. So we see that Dizzy is not only an acid popper, he's a pothead also. So Dizzy does it all. Dizzy is about any type of drug to get him high. Now, we went past that. We see Drizzy's running down. Not Drizzy. Dizzy's running through the hallway or through the train tracks. We see he get pulled into that little chamber or whatever. And the security guards slash cops, whatever they were, they kept running. Like they didn't see him going to like the little cut right there. He kept running. And we see Dizzy and they say his name was Store. They meet up, like they're just talking, they're discussing art. And we find out that Dizzy is actually looked up to as a great artist. We see, like, once Thor finds out who Dizzy is, we find out that he's a genius. Like, not a genius, but like he's also an idol to like the spray paint community. He's not just like a low level dude. He's actually pretty high up there, which I really didn't know. Well, now that I didn't know because like we seen when Shao was like everybody knew who Shao was. Everybody was hype about Shao. And then when Dizzy was just talking to him earlier, you're like, oh, I like him. Maybe they didn't know who his name was, whatever, at the beginning of this series, beginning of episode 1, like, oh, I like him, but he's weird. And now we meet Thor, and Thor like, oh, you're a genius, bro. Like, so we see, obviously, Dizzy's well known as as an artist. We see Thor, Dizzy likes Thor work, and at the same time, Thor likes him. And so, like, even though Dizzy's high up, he can still sit back and be like a fan of other people's art. Same like Shaolin. Shaolin's pretty up there, but I feel like he actually respects Dizzy's artwork since they made him like in charge of doing like designing flyers and everything. So obviously, like inside this community of graffiti and tagging and everything, even though some of these guys are higher up there, they still have the ability to step back and admire other people's art at the same time. So I like that we seen that. We seen that Dizzy, like he calls himself a rebel, but he really didn't want to go down to the other side of town. Like he knew, like, hey, if the Big Herc's group don't kill us, our parents are gonna kill us for going way over there. And that's when Ra sticks up, like, look, man, if you're gonna be a rebel, you gotta be a rebel. So we see Dizzy turn, like he willingly does it. And he goes out with his brothers to go save Shaolin and Ezekiel. So now we're gonna move on to Ra. We see Ra gets kind of scared a little bit. He sees Shaolin walking down the street. He knows the last time they seen Shaolin is when they were surrounded by all those other groups, and they basically called them out for what happened with the Grandmaster Flash tape. So we see Ra's talking to his brothers like, should I lock the door? What should we do? If we do lock the door, then we look soft. If we don't lock the door, he might do this. So he comes in, he tells them, look, I'm looking for Ezekiel. Dizzy like, look, it's not Ezekiel's fault, it's my fault. And that's when shot like, did I ask who fault it was, or did I ask where he was? So we see Shaolin's back on his like, basically he's trying to make up with the group again, like he does like every other episode. But hey, and so Ra once like Shy like gets upset, he pulls something out of his back pocket. Oh yeah, he pulls the like bootleg Grandmaster Flash tape, and we see like Boo Boo, Ra, they're like hiding under the table. One of them yells "gun," and we see he calls them a faggot for that. Like they're scary for no reason. Like he didn't come there to hurt them. He came there like really just to get information to find out where Ezekiel was. So we see that happens, and then that's really, well, we see Ra again later on in the episode when after the group has actually decided to go help them. They show up like last minute and while they're helping them, we see that we see like when they're helping them, we see like everybody's yelling out these random numbers. Everybody's with a whole different group. Everybody's like something basically to distract them so that Boo Boo could grab the tape. And once they do that, they're off on the chase. And that's really all we have for Rara this episode. Now we're gonna move on to Boo Boo. Boo Boo is he's not really like I said. We see him when he gets scared, and we see him basically when they say the tape, and we see him when they're trying to talk to Dizzy to go save Ezekiel and Shaolin, and that's really all we see of Boo Boo. So in this episode, we see a lot of Francisco. Francisco is he's working on basically getting his public housing approved. We see if he partners up with the new wannabe mayor Ed Koch, I think his name was. We see that if he partners with him, he promised him the $10 million that he needed to build the affordable housing. The only catch is he has to not only endorse him, but he needs to get a younger person who's smart and who's not caught up in the street life to endorse him also, so that the younger voters would go for it. And when we see that, and another thing, he wants like to go against graffiti. So I don't know how Ezekiel's going to take that. Right? We don't see Francisco actually discuss that with Ezekiel. We just see that Maylene basically told him like, look, I want my friend out of the streets. I want him away from Shao, and that leads to like the internship that he's kind of promised by Francisco. He originally tells Francisco doesn't really want it. Francisco's like basically has to talk him into it, convince him into it. And we see when he goes to the window, is talking to him, talking about crabbing the barrels and not really having hope. We see Shao steps out, and the whole time he's talking about crabs in the barrels, they're really focusing on Shao. Like Shaolin's gonna be the one that pulls them down. Like they're trying to get uplifted, they're trying to climb out, but every time they try to climb out, Shao's gonna pull them back. Which we haven't really been seeing that. We have been seeing like when he's trying to move on with his girl or something, we see him pick Shao over his girl, which he did again in this episode. But that's neither here nor there. I don't really see Shao being like a crab in a bucket. Shao is working on what he thinks is going to help him fly out of the ghetto. At the same time, he's trying to push Ezekiel to push himself in the same direction as far as musically. But I don't really see it being a crab in a barrel type relationship. Now, at the same time, Francisco is basically he's trying to hunt down is it Jackie Moreno? I forget his first name. I don't know his Moreno is his last name. And we see he's trying to track him down. He's not answering his calls. He's not answering Maylene's calls. And it's pretty like he's getting upset. He's getting ready to send somebody to the hotel to find him. Now, and also in this episode, we see when he has a meeting with Ed Koch. He gets in an argument with the I think it was a Rockefeller at first. One of Ed Koch's people was a Rockefeller, and he gets in an argument with him like, um, basically like, who the hell are you to tell me how to run my business, about my reputation in the streets, and so on. So, and he gets dropped by the mayor that's actually in town right now. So that's another thing that happened with Francisco. Now, moving on to Maylene. We see Maylene's. She's still working with not Francisco. She's working on with Moreno. She's trying to get a hold of him. She's calling. She's calling. She can't get a hold of him. Finally gets a hold of him. He hangs up on her. So she basically shows up to the house. She asks for Ezekiel to go with him. Ezekiel doesn't go. So she goes to get her friends. Her friends are like hanging out with Little Wolf, and we see Little Wolf is upset that one of the girls wants to leave and they want to go, and she like basically dares him to hit her, and he steps up to the plate. He doesn't do it, but like Maylene said, it's only a matter of time until it actually does get to the point where he's actually hitting her. So that doesn't really seem too good. I don't know if she's going to return to that relationship. We don't really see like too much about it because she is like just like a side character, but we don't know how it's going to affect in the long run. Maylene, Maylene out there on the train, like she basically is telling them like, oh, Ezekiel chose. Well, no, she's basically telling her like, you need to stop talking to him, blah blah blah. Then she pulls out like, look, everybody can't have a preacher for a father, a pimp for an uncle, and a nice guy who you can't even control. Like Ezekiel basically stood you up, which is the reason why you're with us, and caused that situation with her boyfriend. So we see they kind of turn the tables on her about Ezekiel, but Ezekiel isn't. I don't feel like Ezekiel was in the same scale as Little Wolf is, but we do see him going down the same path, like not as abusive, but just like in Shaolin's path. And once Maylene gets there, we see, I think her name is her friend. We see like Moreno living so disgusting. He had to use condoms on the ground. He had to use food. I mean, like half eaten food. It's just a complete mess. Beer cans. It's like the worst living standards I've ever seen. Like anybody lives in. He stay in a hotel. So I don't even know why it's dirty if he lives in a hotel. Like room service should be able to come every day and clean it up for him. I don't understand why it's to the point that it's at. It should never have got that bad. Like I know it has like the smell in the hallways or something. It was just disgusting in there. Now we see like Moreno's overdosing. So we see Maylene's friend Jackie, like she says she gives Yolanda a job to go find Ice. She tells Maylene to turn him over. She tells him not to call the cops yet. And she brings the Ice. She put it on his testicles. It looked like, and that right there was enough to put a shock to his system, like to get him up. And he plays like the little first part that he has for him. He blacks out again out there on the train. And we see Maylene and the two girls, they're harmonizing really good together. And he's remembering the beat that he had in his head. And with them harmonizing, it actually sounded pretty good. So I think he's going to get like a bright idea to actually like connect them together as a group or something instead of just moving Maylene by herself. And he's going to try to find like a new like disco type song for him is what I feel. But we see when he's in there with Francisco, he he keeps playing the same little like four notes over, and it doesn't really get him anywhere. Like he just does it. He tries to mix it up a little bit. Next time does it again, and we see everybody's looking at him getting frustrated. Everybody's getting worried. Like I hope he pulls something out of his ass like on that spot to where he. Because if he doesn't, he's going to get killed. And we see like when Maylene's in there, like it's all you got left of my uncle's money. Like bad things are gonna happen if that money don't turn up or a song or something don't turn up. So we see that happens. Um, what goes next? We see Grand. No, we don't. We see Grandmaster Flash for a quick second with Shaolin. Shaolin's basically so he's hanging out with one of his friends. He asks him about if he has a bootleg tape. His friend obviously says no. His friend's like a pimp, so he starts sleeping. You know, he basically Shaolin's paying for the butt. Shaolin basically doesn't want to have sex without music, so they switched to a new song, and then Shaolin found out it's a Grandmaster Flash bootleg. So he basically like, look, man, like you told me you didn't know nothing about it. My life is on the line. I'm thinking about committing suicide. I don't know what it is with suicide and everything. I don't know if it's just a figure of speech, but everybody's talking about committing suicide in this show. And once Shaolin gets a tape, like you see, he's hitting the streets, he's hitting everybody up. He finds out where he got it from, like the cassette king, and that's when he finally finds Ezekiel at the internship interview, and he gets he gets Ezekiel to come with him. He tells him, like, look, I'm glad you happy. I'm glad everything's working out for you good again. You get your internship, you got your girl, and now I'm just screwed. You basically just saying screw me. Ezekiel feels kind of bad, and he goes with him. And when they go over there, we see her sneaking around, her peeking through the window, and they actually see the bootleg king bootlegging Big Hurt. And then we see when the bootleg king when the cassette king goes meet Shao's friend, Shao wants to get violent with him. See Shao with his cane with the sword. It reminds me of Mr. Big. So Shao wants to go like violent with him. Ezekiel like, nah, man, we can't do this. They're arguing, and make a lot of noise to where the cassette king actually hears them. So first person out is Ezekiel. He does his like Jive Turkey speech. He talks about it like, look, they call me Turtle because I drive my OJ slow. I drive my OJ fast. So they do that, and that's really it. And then we see Shao comes in after him. Then we see all the Drizzy and everybody, with Dizzy and everybody comes in, and they basically do the same thing, which I don't really think was work. I don't understand how this dude got flustered, and I don't understand why he even let it happen like that. It was like so weird. It seemed like out of place. I really didn't like that scene at all. I mean, it was cool when Ezekiel did it, but once everybody did it, it was just a little bit much. So that's like my biggest issue with that. Um, but yeah, so I really didn't get that. I really didn't like that at all, that scene. But moving on to the next one, we see. I'm gonna move on to Ezekiel. Ezekiel, we see he's going to the internship just to go to, like, he's basically being forced to go to it because like Miss Green showed to his house, talked to his aunt, and basically forced him to go to it. He gets there, he's telling like, look, I honestly don't even want this internship, but I'll take it just because like I don't want it because I know like the I forgot the name of the actual people were called, the chairman or something. He didn't like it because they're the one like basically forcing forcing all the poor people out of the Bronx. He was forcing them to like hoping they would die, not hoping they die, but he was basically getting against them, forcing them out to do things, and he wasn't really with it, so that kind of messed him up. And what else happened this week? And there's really so then he talks to him with I'm sorry, I'm so like distracted, but he talks to Francisco. Francisco basically games him into like, look, you gotta do this not for now. Like it seems like you're scared to do this because you feel comfortable. And honestly, you need to start doing stuff that's out of your comfort range to push you further than what you're doing right now. So that's what he does. He accepts it, and he goes on. Like he goes outside, kisses Maylene, and that's when Shaolin shows up. And that's when she's basically like, no, you're a criminal. You can't do this, blah, blah, blah. So, yeah. And that's really it for Ezekiel. Like, we see him, we see the cassette tape, and we see him running in the hallway. We see him running to Big Herc, and Big Herc basically stops it, and it ends on like a cliffhanger with Big Herc. And that's really it. So, this episode was okay. It wasn't my favorite so far. I didn't like it was a lot of stuff I didn't like about it. Like my biggest thing I didn't like was that, like I said, that scene with the cassette tapes. I really didn't like that. And what did I like about this episode? Also, I don't like how they're doing Shaolin's character. 1 minute she's mad at him, next minute he's best friends with him again. They need to decide how Shaolin's going to react. Like keep him on a steady pace. I understand he's like the way he is, but they need to figure out a better way to push the story along other than, oh, Shaolin's mad at us, so we should do this. And, oh, we're friends again. They need to figure out how to, I really don't like how they're doing that. That's really messing me up. And that's really it. So with the with the bust a move this week or this episode, I gotta give it to, I think her name's Jackie, Maylene's friend. When she puts the ice cubes on Moreno's testicles to wake him back up, like she just went into action. We find out it's because of her dad was like an addict, so that's what her mom used to do for him. But no matter what, she did it, and she won the week this week. So that's really all for this video. Not really too much, pretty short for a video. But thank you guys all for tuning in and all the support you guys are showing. Remember to subscribe to the channel, like the video, comment if you guys have something you want to say. And as always, follow us on Instagram at lost_culture. Follow me on Instagram at Saint_Aston. And stay lost.